All right. This is probably the fifth or sixth conversation in this series where I am having a direct, authentic, impactful conversation with my clients. And really, the purpose of these conversations are to help you understand, what do people think about coaching? What do people think about getting support? And how are they thinking about their life? Because I want you to understand, because there are people who are thinking about their lives very differently, and they tend to have a very different quality of life. And a lot of people might not realize that. And really, it'll become sort of a way for you to maybe get inspired, a way for you to think about your life a little bit differently as well. And maybe if you need support or coaching, you can get in touch with me, or even if it's not me, go find the kind of support that you need. But this will help clarify that, because a lot of times we can accelerate our progress if we get the support that we need versus trying to do everything on our own. And so I'll jump right in. And first of all, thank you, Philip, for joining me on this conversation.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, always a pleasure to talk to you. So we'll get started. So tell us a little bit. We'll start this off with, like, what were you thinking? What were you considering in your mind before you did coaching or anything? What came to your mind to even consider, like, oh, I need something like coaching, or I need to get support? Like, what was happening in your life at that time?
So it kind of started a while back, maybe around my high school years, when I realized that I wanted to race ATVs and have a life of freedom. After digging deeper into it, I realized that it's going to cost some money. So I had a bunch of negative thoughts and negative feelings associated with what I have to do to make this reality happen. And the whole thing that has to do with self-improvement, whether I'm getting help from a coach like you or doing it on my own, is doing whatever it takes or whatever it needs to be done to try and get rid of those self-limiting beliefs. A lot of it was associated with real estate, and a lot of it was associated with ATV racing, and some of it was associated with freedom. There was a lot of thoughts about me maybe possibly not ever achieving the level of freedom that I truly want.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that, because those are some of the thoughts that people have as they're kind of going towards that path, and they're trying to create their version of whatever freedom is to them. Now, so what made you even, because we connected in an interesting way, like, what were the circumstances around as you were thinking about all this stuff? What did you do that got you introduced to coaching, and then you approached it kind of as an active way? Okay, I need a coach. What happened there?
So I first got involved in real estate pretty heavily around, I bought my first house in 2008, but I started taking it seriously in 2017. I had met a few investors, and one investor recommended that I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I don't know a single real estate investor who hasn't read that book.
I haven't either.
Yeah. So reading that book branched off to a bunch of different things, reading more books by Robert Kiyosaki, reading other real estate related books. And obviously those books helped me purchase more properties than just the ones that I had before. And funny enough, after reading, what got me started on my spiritual journey was reading Fake by Robert Kiyosaki. In Fake, he mentions The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle and The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. I've read those books only, 5 or 6 times each. So
only 5 or 6 times.
Yeah, exactly. Every time I read those books, I always pick up something new. And after reading The Untethered Soul, Michael Singer mentions Ramana Maharshi, and he's another person who I follow as far as spirituality goes.
That's incredible. And then I know that there was, maybe before we even go to the point where you kind of pursued it, tell us a little bit about what was happening in your life. Because I know you were at a job and you were trying to start, like, go full time on the business side of things. And there were a lot of thoughts around that. You had acquired a few properties by then, but then you wanted to kind of go more towards your version of freedom. Right. So tell us a little bit about what was happening in your life context at the time.
So I started working for the fire department in 2007, and I didn't have this realization of me wanting freedom like I did until, like I said, around 2017. So I was trying to develop a plan to achieve freedom through real estate without needing my job from the fire department. Unfortunately, something happened that made me quit my job sooner than what I would have actually wanted to, and that was the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. I didn't want to take the COVID vaccine. And being that it was mandated, I was forced to quit. I was going to quit or they were going to fire me. And I didn't want that on my resume. And unfortunately, I didn't own enough real estate at the time to not work. So I had to quit. And so that made me quit my job, sooner than what I would have wanted. But I'm still on that journey, still on the journey, searching for more real estate. I don't quite own enough properties to not work, so I do still work, but I'm still on that journey to try and acquire enough.
Right. And I remember, I think you attended a real estate event or some kind of conference, whether it was virtual or in person, where I think you saw one of the coaches speak about this. And then you approached the coach, and then the coach referred
Right.
you to me. And then we had can you clarify what happened there?
Yeah, of course. So I got involved in a local real estate group here in Albuquerque, and they have meetings once a month. And there I met Jens Nielsen.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that he was a high performance coach. I approached him and I told him the kind of things that I was looking to accomplish. He said that he might not be the best choice for me. And that's when he introduced me to you, or gave me your information.
Yeah. Interestingly, so Jens was my client at the time, but he was also a coach. So he asked if I'd be interested to have that conversation with Philip, and we had a conversation. And then that went towards kind of Philip going towards the coaching. So what was it about that initial conversation that made you want to explore coaching as an investment in yourself?
Well, I felt like me and you really connected, and I really felt like you understood me and you really understood what I was trying to accomplish and where I was coming from. You also mentioned that I wasn't afraid to answer those questions, pretty honestly. So I felt with that whole thing right there that we would have been a good match.
Okay, great. And what did you think? I mean, understanding each other, but it was still a considerable investment for you to go towards. What did you think you were going to gain out of the coaching process?
What I thought I was going to gain is I was going to be put on the fast track to accomplishing these things I want to accomplish. And I was going to receive assistance in getting rid of my self-limiting beliefs.
Okay, great. Okay, so you thought about it, you jumped into it, and none of these parts, by the way, everybody's listening, whoever's listening to this, these are not scripted. So I don't even know what Philip is going to say. And even before our conversation, I told him, like, whatever comes authentically, naturally come out, because I want this to be real. I don't want this to be some made up stuff that some people might put out there. But really, so as you jumped into these conversations, there were multiple areas we dealt with, and I'll let you pick what you want to share. But what did you feel as you went through the coaching process? How did it help you generally as you were going through this coaching process?
So during the coaching process, I felt like I was becoming more of who I truly am. I felt like I was connecting more with my subconscious, or other people might refer to it as their superconscious, and less of my ego, less of my thoughts derived, from my mind, and more of what's of my intuition. Definitely.
I love that. And what did that do for you in your day-to-day life?
So after receiving coaching from you and researching from teachers like Ramana Maharshi, what I gathered is that if people are living their lives with self-limiting beliefs, low confidence, thinking that they can't do the things that they want, it's because they don't know who they truly are. And I felt like as I was receiving coaching in combination of what I was receiving from you and what I was reading from my books, is that as I got to know myself more on a deeper level, those self-limiting beliefs slowly started going away.
And what was it specifically more on the coaching set? Like, did I tell you, well, you need to know yourself? Like, what was it about the process? So people understand, like, what happened in a conversation? Because a lot of people think that coaching is about me telling you what to do, giving you advice like that. So what happened in there that helped you kind of navigate finding that true self?
One of my favorite parts was when I would talk to you about one of these like self-limiting beliefs that I had. You would put it in such a way that made it sound so stupid and so ridiculous, like that it just ended up being funny. It's like, yeah, I'm actually really silly for thinking that, and I'm glad you put it that way. That's what I remember the most.
So what I hear there is I reframed what I heard. And
Yeah.
when you heard it back, it didn't sound like a problem you needed to solve. It was just something that was, okay, I don't need to deal with that. And that helps you navigate it a little bit better.
Yes, exactly. And the talks, what helped me a lot was when me and you would talk about spirituality and being connected to your intuition, was that it got to a point where I was able to tell the real me when I had these internal thoughts, whether it was the real me or whether it was my ego. If it was like a limiting belief that I had in a situation, I was able to say to myself, oh, wait, that's just my ego talking. It's not real. It's not really me. And that once I was able to hit that point, there was some big benefits after that.
Yeah, and I want to clarify that for those who are listening, because not everybody might have that lingo, but it's real in everybody's experience. So, for example, we might have all kinds of thoughts about, oh, well, I don't think I can do this thing, or I have low confidence in this area, or I don't know if this is possible for me, or I don't know if this person or this opportunity is for me, or I'm thinking about myself a certain way in my day-to-day life, like, oh, well, I'm not capable of doing this, that, and the other. Whatever those thoughts are, they actually influence our actions. They influence how we feel internally, which influences the combination of those influence how we show up in our life, whether or not we take action towards the things that matter to us, or we kind of stay in our own corner. Unfortunately, most people, they don't even realize it. A lot of these thoughts are running in the background, and it holds them back in their own corner. They don't do anything, and they just go on that safe routine of whatever they're taught. And what Philip is describing is that a lot of these thoughts, sometimes we can't navigate. We don't know which one is us, like who's the real us in this process. And what you understand is that as you kind of go deeper into these areas, you realize that a lot of these thoughts we pick up from our environment, from our parents, our teachers, the media, our friends, family, and they're well-meaning, but it doesn't affect us positively in a lot of ways, and might have a mix of them. And then over time, as you get to a place where you're running your own life, you cannot differentiate between what's me at my core. Philip is referring to your core, but if you're using a different language, you might say it's your soul, you might say it's your real self, your true self, or you might say it's how you feel deep down. Whatever it is you call it, doesn't actually matter. Once we begin to differentiate that, then we get focused on what matters to us, and we actually start to create a life that feels better, that feels connected, that we feel confident to approach it. And in the process, whoever comes in our life, we contribute towards them, we connect with them. So it takes care of the contribution factor too. I just wanted to clarify that because it might not be clear on the other side. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you pretty much nailed it. I was listening to everything you were saying, and yeah, I mean, I agree with everything. That was a good way to put it.
Okay, good. So now I know we dealt with some specific areas as well. I'll let you decide what you want to share and what you don't want to share. But I want you to kind of, because a lot of people have categories in their life that they're working towards. Like their first is their own self-confidence and how they show up in their life, how they feel. But then there's their relationship, whether those relationships are with their friends, family, with their loved ones, or with their clients or business partners, whoever it is. And then the other side of it is their bigger purpose and like what direction they're going at a bigger picture level, their vision for their life, their business, their sense of purpose, their deeper faith, whatever it is that they like, those bigger picture things. So in those categories, so you mentioned that it helped you become more aware of yourself. It got you connected to yourself. So you mentioned a little bit about that, but what about the relationship side, the business side, the purpose side? Did it help out a lot in any of those areas at all?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So after exploring my deeper consciousness and my intuition, family relationships became much better. Everything was much more smooth between me and my family interactions. I was able to interact with potential business partners much more confidently. I was much more confident in the business that I was doing and in the particular business model that I use for real estate. I was able to make friends much more easily because I didn't have all of these negative thoughts running in the background. And even if one did pop up, I was able to, like I said before, say, oh, that's not the real me. I don't need to pay attention to it. All of these things together just made my relationships with people much better, much more smooth.
Yeah, I love that. And you also mentioned your business as well. So you were able to confidently approach a potential business partner. What about with your clients who are in your properties, with your day-to-day interactions with other people outside? Like, did it have an effect there?
Yeah, actually a pretty big effect. So with my business model that I use, it's called house hacking. We in Albuquerque refer to it as a shared residence. So it's where you buy a single family home and rent out the rooms inside the house. So obviously that's very people oriented. People are living in the same house together who are now roommates and potentially didn't know each other before. So I kind of had to come in and be the guy that brought everybody together and kind of live like they were one big family. And ever since practicing this sort of thing, I have received very, very little amount of problems from tenants. You would think that, bringing people together who don't even know each other to live under the same roof sounds disastrous, but the problems that I experience with this business model is so low. It's crazy. It's like the houses just run themselves. And that's what every real estate investor wants.
Yeah, and I always loved your business model, and that's why I was really interested to kind of help you move it forward a little bit because it is a unique one, and a lot of people are like scared of like putting people in the same house. And in a sense, what I saw was it was like a multifamily in a single family space.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
A lot of that, most of my clients are multifamily investors, but they don't think of it in that way, and they might have issues around like thinking about, oh, will this work or not? But you have made it work like on multiple properties. And also from a business standpoint, it doesn't matter if you're in real estate or coaching or any kind of business, you're dealing with people. If you
Mhm.
don't know how to connect with your clients, if you don't know how to make that process smooth, if you don't know how to connect with your investors, with brokers, with realtors, whoever they are, that hurts bottom line, that hurts business, that hurts. And these are the places none of us have training in. None of us have formal training in. And we haven't thought through how that would approach it. And I love that you've worked through that yourself. And I mean, those who are in this field, and I'm like, you need to talk to more of these investors because I know their challenges. They're not even focused in this area. So they definitely connect with Philip, and we'll talk about like how you can get in contact with Philip too in a bit. So thank you for sharing that. Now, what would you say around bigger themes for you? Because I know self-awareness is a big deal for you. Like you actively work on that, and probably more so than most people I've talked to, which I really appreciate and respect because I think it makes a big difference. So what would you, when you think about your vision for your business, for your life, that sense of purpose and direction, do you feel like that has improved or that has expanded or it didn't have any effect in that area?
So I feel like it has definitely improved ever since working on this and receiving the coaching. I finally have been able to start racing my ATV more consistently, which was a huge issue. And I'm super happy about that. As far as the future goes, I want to keep racing my ATV and possibly move up to the faster classes. And of course, acquire more properties. I'm always looking for investors. I think that this particular business model is the perfect way to create a community of people and bring a bunch of people together and maybe even hold events or do something fun like that to create a stronger sense of community of, for the people who live in these houses.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that I've realized as we work together is that like you have a lot of focus in that area to get people connected. And a lot of investors actually think about that when they think about the multifamily space, like how can we bring communities together? Actually, it's much simpler to do that with 5 people in a house than 1,000 people in a building. It's a
Yeah.
much simpler process. There are very few variables. And also you mentioned the ATV. It's interesting that you've shared multiple times that it has helped you, like the coaching helps you improve your performance in the ATV
Right.
race. And for those who are listening, like that's a passion for Philip, which I always love. Like he was so excited to move towards that, and they had some things that held him back. But part of it was, well, how could you do more of that? But part of it was like his performance that matters to him to improve in that area. So how did coaching help you in that process?
So I remember me and you talking about it, and I was telling you some of the things that I was experiencing during a race, and I was trying to figure out ways of how to improve. And it always went back to us talking about focus. And you were going over what some of the most elite athletes in the world do. And you were talking about how a lot of them practice on focus. It's not all just about being, it's not all about the physical, which some people think it is, but so much more of it is mental and so much of it is focus. And after we talked about that and you gave some pointers on actually how to focus, it improved dramatically. I became a much faster racer.
And did the conversation, so in this, I want people to understand the process of it. Is it like pointers or were there questions to help you understand your own? Because I don't do ATV racing. I have no idea what the hell you do in ATV. They're a lot of fun, but I don't do it. I'm pretty sure I would fall off if I do what you do. So what was the process like? Because I want people to understand that a lot of coaching is really trying to get the client to understand how they can make their process work better. What did you feel in that area? Did the question help you dig deeper into what you do in your own space?
Yeah. So what I did was I put all of the practice that I had been working on of discovering my inner chord, my intuition, and just kind of moved it into a skill of focusing during the race.
Right.
And that was a huge difference maker right there.
Okay. And also, let's talk a little bit about, because I know we spent quite a bit of time getting you to think about how productive and focused you can be in your day-to-day life. And because part of what I was getting is because, especially as you went towards building your own thing, you moved away from your job. And a lot of entrepreneurs experience that because the sense is that I'm getting more freedom. But the problem is that with freedom comes this lack of structure and you don't know what to focus on. You don't know what to do and you end up wasting a lot of time that could be used to do a lot of amazing things. So
Right.
how did the coaching help with you getting more focused in your day-to-day life and going towards the things more productively?
Yeah. So I remember when we were talking about this, I was telling you all the things that I wanted to accomplish. And then I told you that I didn't have enough time in the day. And then we broke down 24 hours in the whole day. And you showed me that I had like an extra 8 or 9 hours in the day that I could use and, stop making excuses to not get these things done. So I always kept that in the back of my head. And knowing that I really did have enough time in the day to do the things that I want, that's what kept me focused, because that was one of those limiting beliefs that I had before I was receiving coaching, was that, oh, I want to do all these things. I just don't have enough time in the day. And the coaching was what made me realize that I actually do and get rid of that stupid thought.
Well, I love that. And so I didn't tell you to be ashamed of yourself.
No. No, he didn't tell me to be ashamed of myself. We broke down 24 hours and he said, look, you do have an extra 8 hours in the day, so you can do what you want to do.
Yeah. So the reason why I say it jokingly, like a lot of people here, like listen to these motivational speakers and trainers. There's like, if you're not spending this much time on this, yeah, you're shaming somebody into something that they will go into it temporarily, but then they will leave it the next thing because they'll feel like crap afterwards.
Right.
But a lot of times people know we lose attention in our life because we are just not looking at all aspects of our life. And just walking you through your own life, you know what you need to focus on, you know what you need to work on. And I love what you said, that a lot of people have this thought, it's like, I don't have enough time. For you, it was 8 hours. For somebody, it might be 2 hours extra or 3 hours extra that could pick their business up. I built my business, for example, with 2 hours a day. I know a lot of people who do that. And a lot of times it's the difference between going deeper into that, figuring out how we can do this and what we can focus on as we do this. And I really want to celebrate you that you were able to go in that direction. I do want to, part of the work that we also did was get you, because I really love your business model and you shared it a little bit before, but part of the work that we did was get you to think about scaling that a little bit more, think about bringing other investors into the picture. And we did a little bit of strategy work in that area. We even got you to think a little bit about how would you have better conversations with potential investors, and get you to think about like how you can present your business model and stuff. Did any of that help in the process?
Yeah, absolutely. I had made a whole presentation on the easel board and I was practicing the presentation. And that helped me a ton to get rid of some of that. What do they call it? What kind of fear is it that they have? The public speaking fear. And it really helped me break down all of the different aspects of my business model and all of the good things for the tenants and for the investors. So it helped out a ton. Yeah.
And also, what about this? Because I think part of the sense that I got that you were thinking too small when it came to your business. And did it help with perspective and strategy around how you could scale potentially your business?
Yes, absolutely. It also gave me some more motivation to try and study different ways to acquire properties, you know, as in looking into more than just bringing on more investors. Like right now, I'm reading a book on lease option and subject to deals. And it also made me realize that bringing on investors would be a great way to do it, a much quicker way to do it too.
Yeah, that's incredible. And the reason why I'm getting Philip to share that, like sometimes we're sitting on a gold mine and we don't realize it ourselves. And sometimes it takes a different perspective to get somebody else to come in and look at your business and see. And then that's what I saw with Philip. He has a gold mine. He already has a system that's working. It's just a matter of more investors coming in and working out the scaling piece of it, which can be challenging, but in the meantime, it could be incredibly lucrative on both sides. And on top of that, it can help support people, because what Philip is doing is actually supporting people, in the sense that, at least the sense that I got was that people who are living in that environment, in that part of town that he has as properties, first of all, they're much safer and the prices go down much more because he's dividing the rooms. And so they
Right.
get to live in a better environment. They get to have a supportive set of people around them. They're not living alone. And they have the freedom to come and go and do all sorts of stuff and not be worried about the environment and all sorts of other things in their neighborhood.
Right.
And on top of that, it creates a cash flow system, which I think is amazing because I've seen bigger properties with much lower cash flow than the one that Philip creates. So really love his model. And I've seen this a lot in business. Somebody has something like that, but they haven't thought deeply as to how they could scale it. And part of the
Right.
coaching process is helping you think through some of those possibilities, some of the ways that you can move forward. So we really love the process that you have. Now, we also kind of went into, you don't have to share specific details and stuff, but the confidence, because that's a huge part for individuals, human beings, that when we don't have confidence to do something, whether that's jumping into a business, whether that's connecting with somebody, whether that's getting married with somebody, whether that's just going traveling or creating a different type of life or being better at your work or approaching business owners, whatever that looks like, we don't have the confidence, we're not going to do a lot of stuff, or we won't consistently move towards it, or we won't go towards it at a scale. How did coaching help with the confidence piece for you?
Well, it all started back when I would tell you some of these things that I was struggling with. And then the way that you thought about it and the way that you reworded it to me just made it sound so like stupid and silly in my head. Like, why would I even think that way? It doesn't make sense to think that way. And, as soon as we slowly started breaking down my self-limiting beliefs in that way, and it helped out a ton. It helped out a ton.
Awesome. I love that. Now, let me ask you this, because I mean, you've gone off, you've done amazing things yourself, and you're continuing to be on that growth path, which I love about you and generally with my clients, because they are on that growth path. It's not like, oh, I got coaching, I'm done, I'm good. They're continuously on that path, that whether they do coaching with me or not. In fact, it amplifies their efforts on that path to grow themselves, their business, and their impact around them. Do you feel like, oh, well, coaching helped me right there and that's it, it stopped? Do you feel like it has helped you after the fact as you've kind of moved on and done other things?
Yeah, I would definitely say that it's helped me afterwards, because during it made me realize how important it is. If you want to make any true, long lasting, positive changes in your life, you got to work on self improvement. And having a coach is only going to accelerate that. Definitely. So, what it did for me is it made me continue to work on self improvement and take bigger risks, definitely, without being so afraid.
I love that, because one of the biggest challenge with most people is that they don't know how to manage risk in their life. And most people are living way too safe of a life. And what that does is it doesn't create growth unless you go towards risky situations, doesn't act. And for most people, we're also taught since childhood to be in safe environments, and
Mhm.
especially in the Western world. So part of the coaching process is to help you develop more courage in that area, to help you develop more confidence in yourself so you can take calculated but bigger risks, so you can, because the reward on the other side is much bigger, whether that's financial or in terms of the quality of your life and the quality of your own character, because that matters a lot. Now, looking back, do you feel like that was worth your investment?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And I plan on coming back again someday to get more coaching. Definitely.
Yay! I've always been in touch with Philip and that stuff like that. I really admire the things that you're in, like the way you're approaching your life. I would say very few people go towards it. And those who are listening to it, and that you might have a inclination that, hey, I need to manage my thoughts better, my emotions better. I need to do better in my business. I need to have a better quality of relationship with my wife, with my husband, with my family, with my friends. I need to be better at networking and connecting, and whether that's investors or brokers or collaborators, because those are the things that help you move forward. And these things just stay in our mind. We don't do anything with them. And sometimes books help to a certain degree. And the whole process of coaching is to kind of accelerate that. And we have these blocked or stuck points that Philip shared as limiting beliefs. But pretty much everybody has it. I have them. That's why I have coaches as well. And these are blind spots for ourselves. Some of them we're conscious that, oh, I hold myself back in that way. Some of them we are not even aware of it. We have no idea that we're holding ourselves back in those ways. And just really the process of coaching is accelerating your journey. And if you're thinking about that, what I would encourage you to do is find a way to have that experience, because it's very hard to describe for us like what happens in a coaching environment, because it is very experiential and it'll be different for you, but it definitely helps you accelerate the process with the right coach for you. If you feel like that's me, connect with me. And even if you don't end up working with me, I'm fairly connected in the coaching and mentorship world. I can get you connected with other people who can support you. But aside from that, who would you, Philip, recommend for coaching? Like, who would you recommend for coaching?
Well, the only coach I've had, you.
So generally, so on the other side of it, like, what would people need to go through for them to think of coaching? What kind of advice would you give in that area? Like, when you're thinking, let's say if you were talking to a friend, let's say you were
Yeah.
talking to somebody else, like, what would they need to go through for them to think about coaching?
Well, I think that you would have to point out how, or get them to think about these problems that they may be experiencing and how much improvement have they made on them over the past year or over the past 5 years or over the past 10 years. And if the improvement is very, very small, like very minute, I think that's a good sign you're going to need a coach, because those problems are going to be taken care of at an accelerated level. Definitely. It's not going to take 10 years to fix whatever problems you may be having. It's just going to be put on the fast track.
Yeah, and I love that distinction that you shared, because what ends up happening pretty much, like, if somebody works on their own challenges, and usually, generally speaking, people are aware of the challenges, most of them, some of them they're not, and they kind of slowly work on it. Some people don't, but it's like a very slow snail. And like you said, it might take them years to go there. And the difference that I saw in my own life was like 6 months compared to a decade plus of me working on a lot of these things for myself. And it's not like you're going to need like 6 10 years of coaching. A lot of people who are in the coaching world, they see the ROI, so that's why they invest in it. So it's not like random, but it accelerates that process much faster. So I had a client the other day, he was sharing, and he was able to pay off close to 100K in debt in 2 years because he got coaching. Think about how fast can most people pay close to 100K
Oh God,
in
forever.
debt. That could be forever.
Yeah.
And most people are thoughts are like, oh, maybe I should save a little bit. That might not be the only way, and they might not
Right.
the way to approach it better. But that's just one area. Some people are stuck in relationship challenges for 20 plus years. And then I work with clients, and all of a sudden they go through a coaching process. Within a few months, they're already in the process of solving a lot of their challenges. And these are the amazing reasons why people get coaching. So definitely think about that. I want to get you to one more time. I know you shared a little bit more, to share what are some of the things you're trying to do, and then you can share where people can find you so they can get in touch with you as well. But what are some things you're trying to do where you can possibly collaborate with investors or connect with them, and you could support them as well on that path? So tell us a little bit about what are the things you're doing.
Well, I'm always trying to grow my business. Like I mentioned before, I could always use investor help with that, whether it's long-term investing or down payment investors or whatever. That is fine. I'm also considering putting on a seminar related to house hacking, because I've never seen any type of advertisement for a real estate seminar related to house hacking specifically. I think what would be great, if you have knowledge or expertise related to real estate, I would love to have some people come as guest speakers. Maybe we could collaborate on that. And that's pretty much what's going through my head.
So what I also heard was that you could actually potentially help people with house hacking there. Are you open to helping people individually and in a group setting? Because I know you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
definitely connect
Well
with
said.
Philip. He can definitely help you with that. His system is very unique, and he's been testing it out for different properties, so he can predictably create that and help you with that process too. It reminds me of Robert Kiyosaki in his book, that when he talks about a seminar that he went to for a weekend, he literally said, "This one weekend seminar helped me make thousands of dollars." And that's not uncommon. It's not like, I had to explain this to a family friend. A lot of people think that, well, I've read books in college and school, and they're like, because a lot of those books are theoretical and academic, they don't actually practically help you. Or a lot of those seminars and classes are very theoretical in nature. But what we're talking about here is like, you're going to get the practical steps to move forward in a way that you've never thought of. And
Exactly.
It's a very different thing. And Philip can definitely help you with that.
That's why school is just so flawed. That's why people leave school and they need their tuition paid for, because they can't turn their education into money. And it's just so flawed, so flawed. And real estate investing is nothing like, sit down in a school, that type of setting. And if you apply what you learned in the book in real world, it's going to bring in some huge returns, unlike college.
Unlike college. And then that's the thing, a lot of education system it's not updated to modern times, at least at the mainstream level. But there are independent organizations, whether people who are running seminars or online systems. And part of that is coaching. Part of that is people who are teaching other people around marketing, around sales,
Right.
how to build a business more practically, around how to create a separate another side gig that they can, especially in the current economy, that's what's going on. It's going to become more and more essential for people to have options for themselves, even if it's not a full-blown business. And that, even though the mainstream is slow in that process, a lot of people are contributing, and I love that you're going in that direction too. So we'll put this, gonna wherever you're listening to this, whether it's on YouTube or my podcast or on other places in social media, definitely share this with anyone that needs to hear some of these things, whether they're in the real estate space or they're thinking about getting the support that they need. It's whether it's a family friend or a colleague, because a lot of times people just need to hear a conversation like this to make up their mind to get the support that they need to accelerate their life. They might not even know. Like for years, I didn't know there was anything like coaching or anything like real estate seminars existed. And they're all over, but I didn't know because I was never exposed to, and that's part of the reason why we're doing this. So definitely share this, like this, it'll help me reach more people. And Philip, how can people reach you?
You can reach me by phone, 505-366-9083, or you can reach me by email, sunsalutationsllc@yahoo.com.
Awesome. Well, I've never given up my phone on social media. If your phone blows up, it's your problem.
Okay.
Outside of Philip is getting a text, but that could be good for business. And so I really wanted to thank you, Philip, for taking the time to have this conversation. And for me, it's very helpful. And because part of what I'm also doing in this process is educating people that they have different types of support available. And coaching is a relatively newer field, and a lot of people don't know what they can get out of it. And like I said, a lot of coaches will be willing to do like an initial session for free or for a small charge, just to let you see the experience of it, and you will know how to make a decision around it. So try it out, experience it, and you can make a decision on your own. And definitely share this with somebody that might need these kind of supports that we're talking about. Other than that, hope you have an incredible week and day. And Philip, thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And hope you guys have an incredible day. Bye.